2020 has been a wild ride. When you think it's thrown its final haymaker blow, we're quick to be reminded that another one is around the corner. Like DJ Khaled says, another one. From the pandemic to celebrity deaths, the killing of unarmed Black men, the world has been flipped on its head this year with no end in sight. Everybody has that one friend they call on when stuff hits the fan. Nate is my guy for that. He can get into anything, deep topics, nuance, music, culture, art. He's the man. That's why he's on the All Ball podcast today. Nate Behar, my boy. What's up, buddy?
How y'all doing? Thanks for having me, Tay.
Oh, no worries, man. Man, you've been making the rounds everywhere. So I'm lucky to have you because I know your price is going up. Your price is going up. You're CNN, NBC, Fox, but you're here on the All Ball podcast. But first, I want to get into, Jacob Blake, another unarmed Black man gunned down. This time, this was tough for me to watch because literally his kids were in the car. His back was turned, 7 shots to the back. Watching that, you're not numb to it because it gets crazier and crazier each time. I thought George Floyd was pretty bad. I couldn't even watch half of that. But this time I tuned in. I'm like, it can't be happening again. What were your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's just exhausting, right? I mean, that's the thing is, you obviously know. I haven't seen the video. I've seen the thumbnail. I've seen like the Twitter autoplay, when you're on Wi-Fi and whatnot. But I'm quick to let that thumb work and slide past. I don't need to see it. I can imagine. I can envision. And I can believe. I mean, you could write that out on paper, and I wouldn't need to see the video to know that it probably happened. Yeah, man, it's crazy, right? It's like, how do we explain this mess? I mean, like, how could you possibly explain this stuff? And like you said, like the fact that kids were there, it's just like, as the common saying goes, like, it wasn't so sad, it'd be funny, because it's just like it's so beyond logic to most people that it's like, but hey.
It's like, to me, like I have police officers that are friends now, like Brandon Bridge. He's a great friend of mine. He's a police officer. My old coach in football, he was a police officer. But like, even with that being said, I understand that there are so many things that go on, especially right now. Something needs to be done about the police, man. Like, honestly, something needs to be done. I love those guys, but not all of them are bad, but it's out of control now, especially in the States. Like, there are laws, like I was reading up on this, there are laws that protect them from getting prosecuted in these kind of events. Like, their union has got to be the strongest union known to man, because they know nothing can happen to them. What do you think? I know LeBron's working on it, but what do you think is the first step to righting these wrongs? Like, it's a weird question, but like, I don't even know what to do anymore. Like, we're trying everything. What's next?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. So I'm of a few minds, and one is to be very careful of how I criticize unions, because unions themselves are good, but these public sector unions, and especially policing, I mean, I think it's the number one example, are so flawed. I mean, they're not there to help. I mean, they're there to help their employees or the people, their workers, but it's obviously just gone so far. There's a great Patriot Act on Netflix with Hassan Minhaj. He does a pretty great job of talking about, the broken policing system and how the training and everything goes. It's a nice, easily digestible one. It's 22 minutes. He's got jokes if anybody wanted to take a peek. It's a fun one.
I will check that out right after.
Yeah. It's pretty great. It's easy. And it does talk about the unions, talks about their training and everything like that. And that just says, it's like the unions themselves make them unassailable. And you know that. I mean, imagine if we went into a locker room when we played together in Edmonton, knowing that no matter what happened, coach could not bench us, coach could not cut us, coach
be
could not do
acting
anything.
a fool.
Yes, 100%. You'd be getting told to run another clear out route, and you would just be like,
no, I'm good.
I'm gonna stand right here.
Right.
And so you think about that and extrapolate it over hundreds of years. And plus the militarization of other police forces, plus crime rates, plus politicians and all the rhetoric around, the anti-drug, the war on drugs, and, the war on the ghettos in general. plus redlining and sticking people, stop and frisk, all these different policies that have gone through, plus the fact that as a cop that you can't get in trouble. You literally can't get fired. You think about Messiah Jury, that cop was on administrative leave for the last, I think, how long has it been? Almost a year. Getting paid over 140K, I saw, which was like 60 or 70% of his regular salary, because he said that his head still hurts from the altercation, from getting pushed by the big bad man in the suit. So you can see.
And then we saw the body cam footage, and what really happened is like you're blatantly lying, and now you're getting paper, now you're getting exposed, and then the police department stood by him even after the video. Like that's the part of the problem. You know what I mean?
And that's just it. I mean, that is the problem. That's why I shy away from words like reform, like police reform and all that. It's like, no, I think you need to strip it down. Like if you had a building that the actual, pillars and metal framework was like rotting and rusted, you wouldn't just try to put new brick on the outside. You would be like, all right, well, this land's worth a lot, so let's take it all down and build it back up. Like abolishing the police does not mean let's run around in a lawless state like chickens with our head cut off and just hope it all works out. It's about taking it all down, thinking about how we can do this, with communities in mind and actually helping people rather than being reactive. It's the most reactive public service there is, even the healthcare system tries to get ahead of stuff.
No, that's a great analogy that you use. And oftentimes, like when like you're dealing with a mental health situation, you really need a guy to show up with a gun. Like it's like we need real professionals in different situations. So I think a lot needs to be assessed, and a lot of people are kind of being awoken by everything that's going on, especially sports. Bro, sports has been on the forefront of this, and a lot of people get mad because you're mixing sports and politics, but now it's the time because lives are being affected. The NBA, were you surprised when the Bucks boycotted their playoff game? Like I never thought I'd see it. Like the first time I heard of a boycott was when I was looking up Bill Russell, and when Martin Luther King got killed, he was having to meet, I think they were playing the Lakers. He had a meeting with Wilt Chamberlain and everybody on both sides, and it went to a vote. A lot of guys didn't want to play, but at the end of the vote, they voted to play. And Bill Russell was saying that, to this day, he wishes, he would have spoke up more, and he's been outspoken, right? But he wishes they would have sat out and made a statement. But this is the first time I've really seen, a boycott, not a strike, it's a boycott of a playoff game, and to send a message, especially with the Bucks. They were the closest proximity to where the shooting took place. What were your thoughts on the actual NBA game being boycotted?
Yeah, so twofold. One, I was like filled with unbelievable joy and pride to see them just decide like, nah, this is good. It fills me with joy whenever I see, workers come together and realize that their collective power and voice is actually the product of whatever it is they're being paid to do. And with that, like knowing that they can do that at any point, they can make the entire world take notice, is a powerful thing. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm proud of them for, coming out of those meetings. I guess that would have been today's. We're filming this on what, Saturday? Yeah. So I think on Friday or Thursday they came out of their meeting with the governors and all that, and with some substantive moves. With a focus on voting, I understand it. It's powerful. It's great to see that they had, or that they've come to a place where they can, focus their efforts somewhere, especially to just kind of shut up people who are on the hater side online, just trolling for no reason. Part of me does though wish that it would have kept going. I mean, I understand, and there's obviously, I always think back actually to your sister-in-law, the great Dr. That you do often side with your class before your race in a lot of ways. And I do think that at a point, the financial ramifications of it would have become daunting, which I understand and I appreciate. And just in the world we live in, that's hard to completely remove yourself from. But the power it would have showed, I think, to continue that strike through, and the amount of people it would have inspired to think that, like, what would a general strike look like in this country if it really came to that point where people were empowered enough and believed in, like, okay, like, I mean, I know I can't take a month off work, but what would happen if the working force that, the example I use was all the people that sponsor Fox, all those, I don't know all the companies, but just, Tucker Carlson's absolute vitriol praising that kid, that 17-year-old kid, as if he was some messiah. If all the people that work at those companies that give him tens of millions of dollars a year said, what if we don't show up to work for 1 day or 2 days? until you say we're not going to sponsor Fox anymore.
Right.
If everyone saw the ability of the masses, if they just decided that things were important to them, like it would be like nothing we've ever seen before. And I am so proud of them. I mean, the WNBA players have been doing it forever. NBA players,
WNBA players, they've been riding so hard, bro. And honestly, it's lovely to see, because that's like the power of Black women, man. Like, they get overlooked, they get undervalued, but they're the first ones to ride when there's a cause. And they have the most to lose. That's one thing that I've been thinking about with them. They go above and beyond what's necessary, and they have the most to lose. They're not rich, so I feel like at most of them are, kind of more in touch with the social issues happening. They probably have family members that are impacted. They may be impacted themselves, right? So they feel more of a motivation to move forward with these issues. But they have been on the forefront, man, and it's lovely to see. I hope they continue. I know they'll continue, but I wish the NBA kind of went as hard as they did, because then it would really show that they mean it. I know they're doing their part, but you see what they're doing. Like, they walked up with shirts with the holes, the seven bullet holes in the back. If that's not making a statement, I don't know what is.
And it's and there's like another stipulation I'd love to make there as well, like to not put it too much on the NBA or WNBA or any athletes, is that like it's not the athlete's responsibility in the world. Like, athlete's responsibility should not be to change the world in like this massive way. So like I said, the whole like I would have loved to see the strike go on. That's not to discredit how important it was and how beautiful it was to see them strike in the first place. But yeah, like it really shouldn't be there. The fact that they're meeting with these billionaire owners who can pay and have paid, and these owners have donated tens of millions of dollars to campaigns on both sides.
Your social circles are the people that can make the change. That's what it is.
Exactly. And the fact that the athletes understand that and have used their abilities and their skills and leverage those to create some change is more than we should ever have had to ask of athletes. Right. That's important to make note of. But yeah, the WNBA players they're the realest ones.
I see both sides of the NBA battle, because if you think about it, you're a rookie and you haven't done anything yet, but this is your chance to make money in the playoffs. Like, are you really wanting to sit out? Like, I'm thinking about where would I have to be comfortable sitting out? And it would have to change. If I'm a rookie, I know it's important, but also my financials are tied to it, right? And if I'm LeBron, man, I'm ready to walk out. I don't need this, right? If I'm Kawhi, I don't need this. You know what I mean? But if I'm like Tyler Hero, I'm a rookie, first time, going through this. It may not be. It's important, but also my livelihood and the change I can make in the future is also kind of tied to it. So it's a tough spot to be in. The financial ramifications are huge, but I also think for them being in the bubble, being on camera, being in the public spotlight, they can have an impact on society that they may not be able to if they're not playing. Like, there's like retired players, right? There's a reason why their voice isn't as impactful, is because they're not playing anymore. They're not under that microscope. So I think there's something to that. It's so tough, man, because either way, man, like you're going to end up feeling like there's more that you can do. You know what I mean?
I would just like to point out that you just gave like the most succinct and cutting damnation of capitalism in like 45 seconds without even realizing. Like the decision is, do I do the thing that I know is important and care about that's going to help end suffering worldwide as much as possible, right? Or do I bounce the ball and try to throw it through mesh so that they pay me and I can feed my family?
Right.
It's that's it in a nutshell in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And that's what a lot of these guys are going through in that bubble. A lot of these guys are going through that in their head. And I think, they came up with, I know Obama was involved in it, and they came up with the best thing to do is continue playing. I know Michael Jordan doesn't speak on it a lot, but he comes out and says, he thinks the best thing for these guys to do is continue to play. Financial ramifications are huge, but they're saying that the biggest statement they can make is by continuing to play, continue to push the platform. I don't know. Now that I've listened to you, I think if they had just stopped playing, that may have changed the world. I think.
I think I agree. I can't imagine what that ripple effect would look like. I would love to be able to. Yeah, I'd love to be in the many worlds theory that was that world. But yeah, it's.
Could you imagine the NBA says we are not playing? And just to think about how powerful that statement is. Like, I don't care about the money. I just care about the cause. My brothers and sisters are getting killed. It's time to make a change. That's massive. Do you think right now, if we're in the CFL season, there would be any boycotts or protests? Like, well, what's your thought on that?
That's a good question. I think that as soon as, you know, some American brothers of mine wanted to do it, I'd be right behind them. It's tough, right? I mean, in Canada, like we're doing a better job at making sure that we accept and understand that, like, we're not perfect.
Right.
Like we're saying that. We know that. I think people that are, like you said, use the term awakening. We know that, but like it's hard. I had somebody ask me a similar question about, like, do you think that people would be kneeling for the flag if there was a CFL season? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know.
But
man.
It's not the American flag. So
yeah.
That's what I think about. It's the Canadian flag, and it means something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I know it'd make a statement, but the thing is, are like American companies or American media outlets going to pick that up?
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not going to talk about it. And that's what we want. We want to open the conversation to what's going on, and it's different in a different country. Like, so imagine I was a professional football player in Finland right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me and you are teammates in Finland. There's stuff going on in Canada. Are we really gonna kneel for the Finland national anthem?
Right. No.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't think so. Mm-hmm.
Right. But and then on the other hand, there are a lot of, you know, Americans. We're so close. We share a border. We share a lot of the same ideals, so we feel closely tied. But it's still international waters at the same time, right? It's tough to think about, man. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah,
what did you make of the NHL? Like, there were a lot of jokes made, and you know, I the first night when the Bucks protested and the rest of the NBA was canceled for that night. Then the MLB had a couple games protested, and the next day a couple more. WNBA was out. I think almost every league didn't play but the NHL. And it was a running joke. Like, of course, you know, the league with the least amount of minorities and the least amount of minorities watching would continue to play. That made sense at the time. But, like, honestly, like, what? The next day they come out, obviously they sit out because they get the backlash. Ryan Reeves, we have a guy in the CFL, Jordan Reeves, his brother was kind of the forefront of that, where he was kind of leading the charge, and the alliance that they created in the NHL was calling for games to be canceled, though they eventually were canceled. And, you know, media members were asking guys, like, I don't know if you saw this, that, hey, can we forget about the social justice stuff for a second and just focus on hockey and tell me what happened in that third period or whatever, or the momentum will then carry on. And to the credit of the guys, they're like, no, we have to keep this, you know, in focus. So tell me, at first, were you surprised that the NHL didn't cancel games, and what was your thought of their correction?
Yeah. Let me I mean, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because of the proximity to the problem. Like, in a lot of ways, like, it's not even so much about, you know, white or black, or, I mean, it is, but, like, it's also like the proximity to the issue. Like, how many people in your life are affected by this? Right. You know what I mean? And that's it. Whereas, like, again, in an NBA locker room, it's like, you know, let's use the Raptors, for example. Like, who's our Canadian on there? Malcolm Miller. Let's use him.
O'Shea's Canadian.
Yeah, O'Shea's Canadian.
Got like two Africans.
Yeah. So it's like, again, so maybe that's not an American issue, but like Kyle Lowry was born and raised in South Philly. Right. His two little boys are moving in, and all these guys are gonna have lives now intertwined with these American politics and all these things going on. Right. Whereas in the NHL, it's like, no matter where they play, they all just go off to Florida in the summer and live in their home and like avoid all of this. So that part doesn't surprise me. The part that did surprise me, though, was just like, how do you not just put two and two together and realize how bad this backlash is gonna be? Like, whether you give a damn about Black Lives Matter, about all this stuff, it's like, how do you not realize that everybody in the world is gonna point their finger at you and like howl in laughter because you're just so out of touch? I
think that's part of the problem, man, because they're in the bubble, they're on their phones. Obviously, you're seeing games get canceled, right? Okay, and it's big news in the sports world. Everybody's talking about it. Games are getting canceled. Then you see the NBA games are being canceled. But there's somebody right there. I find it hard to believe that nobody thought to say, hey, Should we maybe talk about this? Like let's get together and see if we should be playing. Nobody else is playing, and we know this. Like, should we kind of talk about this and make sure, what's going on isn't, we don't get major. I mean, you shouldn't do stuff because you're gonna get backlash, but at least talk about it, right? No, don't just go out there and play, and then now you look like the bad guy. Then no matter what you do after that, is going to be looked at as, oh, you're just doing it because you got the backlash, or you're just doing this, because there's, it's conditioned. So it was a problem from the outset, I think, with the NHL.
And I feel for the DHA guys, like Diversity Hockey Alliance,
right?
Vander Kane, all those guys. It's like,
dude, they're fighting.
And like I'm like being from London, Ontario, I know what it felt like. Even my high school football team, I was probably one of 3-4 black guys. Like, like I know what it's like to be in that room where it's just like, it's not even that everybody around you hates you or doesn't care, but it's just like, it's just not an issue that they know how to process or like even understand. And so you're just like, you feel like you're yelling at the clouds.
Right.
So I feel for those guys, because I'm sure they were banging the table. Like,
right.
But,
hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's that's a tough situation. I'm glad they rebounded, but they're not gonna get any props over here. About that, did you happen to actually? Let's go to the CFL. So I know you talked extensively about the CFL. Me and you have talked about the future of the CFL. You've written a piece about what we do now and what the problems were before. What can you say does the future of the CFL look like to you right now, and what steps do we need to take to make sure this league lasts another 100 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just gotta look inward and like be critical. It feels, and I'm by no means a historian on the Canadian Football League. You got a regular in Justin Dunk that's way better than me and all that. But from where I stand, like they have to be critical, man, and like look at themselves and just realize like we've been doing the same thing the same way for so long. And it's not working. If the NFL can realize that they're doing things backwards at a point and like change their stance on, after Patrick Mahomes put out a Black Lives Matter video and they were like, oh, Black Lives Matter. Like, right. Not that that's the issue of the CFL, but if they can change that, then the CFL can, reposition their marketing. They can do all these little things. And I think that's what's necessary, is that we've been talking about it for almost a decade now, like the aging fan demographics and stuff like that in a digital world. It's just, there's a disconnect, right? It's like we're still trying to appeal to, not that there's anything wrong with the older generation, that's ridiculous, but the lack of care and ability to connect with people younger is just like, it's terrible, and it shows. And just like, I mean, I'm in Ottawa, I work around Lansdowne, it shows just in the conversations that you hear about the players. Like the guys I played with this past year who were on NFL rosters for more than one season doing things, and people discuss them as if they're some like B-rated athlete. And it's like, that's the fault of the teams, not the individuals.
Man, that's a good point. And like, I've always thought about, like, even growing up, there are dudes that are like, oh man, I'm never gonna play in the CFL, I'm going to the NFL. Then whatever, they go through college, and next thing you know, they're in the CFL. Then they realize the level of play that they're actually up against again in the camp. They get cut, and then they realize actually what the CFL is about. So it's different for a lot of people. But I'm just wondering, like, as a league, they've operated the same way for so long, right? And we have a new commissioner, Randy Ambrosi, who has this big vision of CFL 2.0, bringing in the global borders, being the biggest global football league ever. But the issues are almost right in our backyard that we haven't fixed yet, and we're trying to bring in global initiatives where we still have issues with our own league, and it's being exposed right now with COVID. It's almost like the US wants to fix everybody's problems around the world, but they got Flint doesn't have water. They got racial injustice going on all over the place. So that it kind of reminds me of, like, you've got to work on your own soil before you can go try to water other people's soil. And I think that's what the CFL needs to get back to. Like don't forget about the CFL 2.0, but make sure you're good at home before you do all that. And I was talking to a couple guys like Dejan and Juwan about how we fix Toronto's issues, and I was like, man, like whatever Drake wants, like bring him in there, you know what I mean? Like get him, make it look cool to go to a CFL game, right? It might cost you a lot to get Drake out there, but the public perception will be on your side, like, oh, Drake's at the game, oh, let's go, man. Like it must be something if Drake's there, if Justin Bieber's there, just get something going where you appeal to the younger demographic. And then like you said, like thinking about guys like the B-rated athletes, like we both know like there's some of the best athletes are in the CFL, and there's got to be a way to highlight that, like what I mean, like there's got to be a way to make them look like they're marketing, whether it's marketing or I'm not a marketing major, but I know there's got to be people out there that know how to make these guys us seem bigger than life, and that's what's got to happen. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. I mean, I think we've chatted about it too. What the NBA did once David Stern made that his focus: turn your stars into your brand and let them roll with it. Then you have fans that are committed no matter where they are. They're invested, and these stories become larger than life. That's just it. I mean, you can watch an NCAA football game and start to care about these stories about 19-year-old kids who never actually paid a bill in their life, and all of a sudden, what I mean?
It's the whole production, like
exactly.
NCAA game day. Like you're watching that, and then they're telling stories about these guys, and then you become an investor. Next thing you know, you're a University of Michigan fan. I was like, how do they do that?
Exactly right.
That's what I feel needs to happen in the CFL. Like they've got to invest. It's gonna obviously take investing, but that's what's gonna happen. Well, we got a couple more things before I get you out of here. But did you see Brian Urlacher's IG post?
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
That seems like this whole movement, this whole social justice coming up. It seems like it's showing a lot of people's like true colors. Like honestly, like I always remember cheering for Brian Urlacher, like because he was a stud on the field. But now that he's opening his mouth about other issues, like I'm not a fan of him at all. Like it's like true colors are being exposed right now. What was your thought on what he said?
Well, the funny thing to me is like I remember when in the wake of George Floyd's murder, like one of the things I kept seeing was like, oh, the world needs to be more like a football locker room, yada yada. And like in my head, I remember being like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yes. If you've been in a football locker room, you know, like,
yeah. Exactly, but then like who is Brian Urlacher's linebacker partner for
Briggs?
Almost a decade? Briggs, a very dark-skinned man who
his son is. Do you know Brian Urlacher has a black son?
Yeah. It's incredible. I can't imagine. I mean, I think I saw Bomani Jones tweet about it. He had a great point of just like I just feel for that kid. Like I just wish that kid the best because like how could you imagine?
Right.
The people always talk about having like men who have done illicit and bad things to women, and then they have a daughter, and apparently like snaps them out and teaches them how to be a good man or a good father, or teaches them how to respect women. And it's like that's not how this works. I mean, and you're seeing it right here with this. Like you could have been racist before and knocked up, and I don't want to use the term knocked up. That's super derogatory. I apologize. He could have impregnated somebody. I'll call it like somebody a black woman, and now he has a black son, and it doesn't automatically make you some sort of tolerant civil rights activist. It was crazy. I just can't believe that he like processed it, said it, like typed it or whatever he did.
Typed it out. Like I'll read to you what he said for people that are listening that don't know what we're talking about. So Brian Urlacher came out amid everything going on and said Brett Favre played a Monday Night Football game the day his dad died, threw 4 TDs in the first half, and was a legend for playing in the face of adversity. NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant was shot by police. Like that's so wrong on so many levels, man. Like, okay, comparing Brett Favre, bro, to like I'm like I can't believe it, to Jacob Blake. Like, okay, so Jacob Blake gets shot 7 times in his back, and we're comparing Brett Favre to him because his dad died. Did his dad get killed by police? Like I don't understand. Like you know what I mean? And then that's what the media does, though. When a dude is a victim, why are we bringing up that he's wanted on a felony sexual? Does that even matter? He was shot 7 times in the back. Like reaching for a knife. How do you like? Who's saying that? Who knows that for a fact? That's what the media does, and it hurts, man, because you see this stuff and that's what they do to minimize it. Like they're doing that to the 17-year-old kid who shot 2 dudes at the protest, right? They said, oh, he was seen cleaning up graffiti, like, but no, that's the suspect. Why are we treating the suspect like the victim? Like I don't understand it, and that's what's been going on in America, man, like for so long.
I had a great conversation with with Derek Taylor, you know, from who's really play guy with Saskatchewan.
Yes.
He said that, and I actually wish that, you know, more people would have thought this. It was a great way to think about it for me, but like one of the purposes of, you know, NBA and sports players striking could have been holding their own media companies that broadcast their games accountable for that exact thing. You know, like that would have been a powerful place as well. You know, I don't know how you can put that into substantive terms that are real and solid, but it definitely resonated with me of like that. That is.
I did see. Like, well, that's a good point. I did see that one of the things that came out, you know, LeBron and all those guys want to see action from the league and the owners, and they came up with, obviously they're going to have all the stadiums across the nation have safe voting for everybody, because obviously we know voting has been suppressed, but also they're going to have spots on TV where, you know, they have clear messaging to have people go out and vote. And I thought that was important because a lot of people are tuning into these games and don't understand the power of the vote. So that's just a step in the chain that needs to keep moving forward. Honestly, and Derek Taylor's a good dude, man.
Yeah, absolutely is. Absolutely.
I know you got to get out here, Nate. Thank you so much for joining me. One more thing before we came out here, man, we learned of the great Chadwick Boseman passing away last night. It was honestly, when I first saw that, I couldn't believe it. We were laying down. Melody's like, "What's going on? Like something's happening." On Twitter, I'm like just waiting because it's like 2020 has been a mess. I'm just waiting to tell me what's going on now. And she's like, Chadwick Boseman passed away. I'm like, no, how? The dude is like he looks like me. Like there's no way he's passing away. Like how? And I got the same feeling I got when Kobe passed away. And these, you know, these people that I've never met, but, you know, relate to and are inspired by, when they pass away, man, it crushes you in a different kind of way. And I'm sure you felt the same way, but they said he was diagnosed with colon cancer like 4 years ago, right? So in that time, bro, he like Civil War, Marshall, Black Panther, Infinity War, Endgame, 21 Bridges.
42.
Yeah, right, bro. It's like he did all this while battling cancer, and it's like he's practicing what he was preaching us. He's inspiring us. He by being able to do all these roles, right? Like work out, train, you know, study these roles while having colon cancer. Colon cancer is so deadly because it's so close to so many of your organs, and it can spread so quickly. And you know that he stays inspiring, and you know, to me that was a tough one to take. And you know, and then to see people maybe making jokes, you know, a couple years ago when he was kind of fluctuating with his weight, that kind of hurts so much more now. What was your kind of takeaway?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was I mean, I just want to like send out. I wish I could just, you know, write a personal letter to his mailbox in heaven. You know, I know there'd be millions of people that would do the same, but just what it meant to our communities to just see the Black Panther, to see an entire movie where the protagonist, the villain, all the good people, the comedic relief, everything in between was all black. It was all black and unapologetically black. Yes. And you know, he made sure that he didn't want to have it. Like I remember reading how he studied for that role. He wanted to make sure what would an accent sound like.
Yeah.
Without colonialism, what would an accent sound like speaking English, but without people that have come in? Like he did everything he could to make sure that everything he did was true to the character and also just true to Black culture. And I cried last night watching a video from him on Jimmy Fallon.
Yes.
People were speaking to him, and he would come out just because you just see what it meant to people of all ages. I mean, it's a Marvel movie. There's 55-year-old women on there talking about how much it meant to them. Like it's beautiful and powerful.
Middle-aged women.
Exactly. He's a hero for that, and he will be remembered forever. And I can't wait to see the next beautiful Black actor he inspires that plays him, you know, 100%. in his biopic. And for that, I mean, I just send all my love and thanks to him, and hope that he rests in power for eternity.
100%. I couldn't say it better than that, bro. But the thing about him, what, you know, really resonated with me is like he played a Black African. I'm African, and he played an African man, and I couldn't tell he wasn't African. That's how great he was, bro. Like he sounded like one of my cousins. He sounded like one of my brothers. You know what I mean? They're just like, he put in so much work, and he made me so proud. And to see that, you know, as a kid, a lot of people didn't want to be African. It wasn't cool to be African. You get made fun of. You be called dark. You get bullied here and there. It was not. Nobody wanted to be African. Everybody wanted to be Jamaican. And you know, he switched it. You know, he had white kids wanting to be African. He had Black kids. He had every type of kid want to be African, not just Black, but everybody kind of wants to be black, but African. And that was the coolest thing for me, and it's the proudest thing. And I, like you said, I hope he rests in eternity, and he inspired so many people. And knowing what he was going through the last 4 years, and to be putting out, the type of quality that he was, and not to tell anyone, he didn't want any sympathy. That's incredible, man. And I hope he rests in power. But Nate, man, that's all the time we have for today. Like I said, you will be joining me throughout the NFL season. You'll be frequent on this show. Your brain is bigger than Niagara Falls. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time. We will be doing this soon. Enjoy your yoga session, buddy.
Absolutely. Empower always, man. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Talk soon.